Good afternoon. We are Sandy Berry and Pat Rainier. We are serving on the National Resource Development Committee. Sandy is from the Assistance League of Reno Sparks, and Pat is from the Assistance League of Kansas City. Our purpose today is to share with you how you can obtain grants for your chapter needs. In the past, the Assistance League has provided speakers on grant writing that have provided excellent information. This year, we decided to take a slightly different approach. We want to show you how we have used a team approach to learn practical steps in obtaining grants, how we gained confidence in our work, and how we were successful in obtaining grants. As just a little background, Sandy is a grant writer, and Pat wanted to learn how to write a grant. We met at the Resource Development Committee meetings in Burbank. Right from the start, we wanted to focus our presentation around using a team approach in writing grants for assisted league chapters. Getting 3 to 5 members to work together on obtaining grants will make the work much more fun. The individuals chosen to participate should have some basic skills. Most of all, the grant member will be well served if they have patience and persistence as part of their tools. Besides having a personality with patience and persistence, the grant members should also have the following skills. They should be able to use the internet to search websites. They should be proficient in using software applications such as Word and Excel. They should have the ability to write concisely and organize materials. They should be able to follow directions and work with the program chairs who are going to spend the money brought in by the grant. We will have more on team development later. Now let's get on with our presentation. And besides a team, we need to establish a process to work within. Just like when we are taking a trip and we make plans to get from one point to another, we need structure to be successful with our grant writing activities. While we do not want to spend a whole lot of time on establishing a process because this will be a little different for each chapter, we do want to talk about a few of the commonalities, one of which includes the board knowing who is writing grants for the chapter. This will generally be done by establishing a grants committee with a chairman. If the chairman has some skill in writing grants, that will be useful. If not, they should be someone who can inspire others to come together to complete the needed work. One thing is very important, and that is there needs to be open communication with the staff that are running the programs that need funding. A grant writer can only write a good grant if they understand what is needed, have good information about the program, and where available statistics that show what the program has done to date and what can be expected with new or additional funding. We are going to break the topic of grant lessons into 6 smaller lessons or modules. Right from the start, we want you to think about how the members of your grant committee might be better at doing one task over another. For instance, one member may like to search for grantors, another may like to do the actual writing, and yet another member might take on the role of keeping everybody on the same page as to which grantors are being approached and when the deadlines are due. We have chunked the material into 6 small modules: preparation, funding, writing, submission, decision, and yes, more team development. But let's start it from the beginning with preparation. While there are many things that we can discuss when it comes to preparation, like establishing a place and time to meet, writing up an agenda, and having someone take minutes, we would like to focus your attention to the issues around preparation as it relates to the computer. 2 things are vitally important to the long-range success of your work. One is developing an online file management system, and the second is learning some advanced features in the software application. First, let's talk about the online file management system. You may have heard about Dropbox. Dropbox is an online file management system where some of the files are going to be kept that will be needed in the writing process. One of the first things your grant committee wants to do is establish a chapter Dropbox. Again, this is an online file management out in the clouds where needed files will be available to all those committee members who, working as a team, need access. Files are available on your computer without having to log in. Files are safe and secure and are being backed up by Dropbox. The first 2 gigabytes, trust me, that's a lot of storage, are free. Setting up Dropbox is relatively easy. We will have additional information about Dropbox at the end of the presentation. Save yourself some time. Once you have Dropbox set up, go to your treasurer and obtain electronic files of the following documents: the IRS determination letter, the chapter's Form 990, the chapter's audited financials, and the chapter's budget. If the documents are not available to you electronically, then you will need to scan the documents into a portable document file or PDF. These documents are always required by grantors for even the simplest of grants. You are going to create a folder in Dropbox for each one of these documents and put the appropriate file into the folder. Be sure to label the file with the appropriate year, such as fiscal year ending 2012. The second area under preparation is using software applications. Conquering Word and Excel will make your grant writing experience more fun and a lot easier to do. It is good to understand a couple of the advanced features of Word, specifically that is word count and tracking changes. You can go to the Help button on the Word program to learn how to use these features. The word count feature will help determine how many characters or words you have in a piece of writing. This is important when doing an online application, since the dialog boxes limit the number of characters and words that can be submitted. The Track Changes feature is helpful when two people are working on a document and making changes to the same document. It is a lot easier to point out where a change is needed in the actual document. In Excel, the Sort Data feature is useful when reviewing evaluation data. One thing that is important, always save your documents in the lowest version, for instance, .doc used in Word 2003 rather than .docx used in Word 2007. This is important to do so that members using older software applications will be able to open the documents that are stored. Now that we have grant members, have gotten Dropbox in place, documents in folders, and our computers are warmed up and ready to go, we need to turn to the second module. Funding, or finding grantors, is a major step forward to securing a grant. We could do an internet search, but that would make climbing the mountain a lot harder than it needs to be. Better yet, we can use the internet and access GrantStation to assist us in the process. Besides finding the name of a grantor in GrantStation, it will also be helpful for us to find the Grantor's Form 990 on GuideStar. Before we demonstrate how relatively easy this process is, let us explain that the National Assistance League has negotiated access to GrantStation for its members for $40 per subscription as opposed to $699. You can find out more about this opportunity by contacting your president, who has been given information about GrantStation and how to access it for your chapter. GrantStation does not have a database of Form 990s, but one can search these by accessing GuideStar. It's a free service. However, the member must register on the site to have access to potential grantors Form 990. The next part of the presentation is a little bit more detailed. Don't take notes. All of the following information is in a handout that we have shared with you, and if you lose it, it will also be on the National Assistance League website. So let's show you how we find a lead in GrantStation and then get more detail about the grantor on GuideStar. When you first start working with these websites, it will seem like a lot of steps, but soon you will be clicking right through to where you want to be at. Open GrantStation after you have paid your subscription fee and obtained the username and password. Go ahead and enter the username and password and select Login. On the left side of the screen, select U.S. Grants. When the next screen opens, select U.S. Charitable Giving Databases. When the next screen opens, select Advanced Search. When you get to this place in GrantStation, you are ready to provide some criteria to focus the search as closely as possible to a grantor that will be a match for your chapter's program needs. This is where the fun starts. So I'm going to show you how I searched for a grantor in my state of Nevada. Check the funders with a specific geographic focus, and then select the down arrow until Nevada shows up. Now you need to scroll down to the next section, which identifies an area of interest. So let's select children/youth and poverty as a way to refine the names of the grantors that the program will generate. As I am selecting these criteria, I am thinking I would like to write a grant for Operation School Bell. We can select 3 criteria in this section. I am only selecting 2 criteria since if I select another one, it will refine the search too much and no potential grantors will come up. In the third step, we select a type of support. We checked project/program support since we are trying to find some funders for our program, Operation School Bell. Okay, I told you this is where the fun starts. The search results shows 9 potential grantors. This is pretty exciting. With a few minutes of time and clicking a few buttons in a computer application, we have screened many grantors, and now we can focus on only 9 that are the best match for the criteria that we used. We are getting closer to finding funding for our program. We are feeling good about our progress, but we are not done yet. Let's explore a little further. Let's select the link to the Terry Lee Wells Foundation. As we look behind the link, we find general information about the foundation. GrantStation is not specific to regions within a state. Just because a grantor gives to a state does not mean that he will give to a specific region. For instance, grantors give to Nevada but may focus their funds to Reno rather than Las Vegas. Or in Missouri, the grantor may give to Kansas City but not to St. Louis. It is important to keep digging until the member can determine that the grantor gives to grantees in their specific region. And as we can see, the Terry Lee Wells Foundation gives to all counties in Nevada except Clark County. That would be they do not give to Las Vegas. We are getting excited since this means that the foundation gives to nonprofit organizations in Reno. Great! We continue down the page and see the more specific areas that the foundation is interested in funding. The application procedures let the member know where they can look to find specific application guidelines. Also, the member wants to highlight and copy the EIN or Employee Identification Number. The EIN or Employer Identification Number is copied and then pasted into GuideStar's search box. Using the EIN is the most direct way to access the Form 990 on GuideStar. If the EIN is not available, then the name of the grantor will need to be entered into GuideStar's search box. Now we need to open up our potential grantor in GuideStar so that we can view their Form 990. There are many important clues on the Form 990 that will help us understand how to approach the funder for funding. So let's get started. First, if you have not registered on GuideStar, you will need to register. So go into the register link and enter your email address and a password that you will use in the future to log in with. Once you have registered, you will be able to log in and then search for a grantor, which is free on GuideStar. If you have the EIN, paste or enter it into the search dialog box on GuideStar and start your search. So again, we paste or enter the EIN or the name of the potential grantor into the search box and select Start Your Search. We now see the summary page for the Terry Lee Wells Foundation page. Select the red link with the name of the foundation and a subfolder opens. Now select Forms 990 and Docs tab. Select the 210 Form 990 and wait. Sometimes it can take more than a few minutes to upload the file to your computer, depending on the size of the file. The files are in PDF. Once you get the file uploaded, it is good practice to save it to a Dropbox folder so that you will have it for further research. Okay, now we have Form 990 and we are feeling good about getting through all the clicks. The information on Form 990 helps us decide whether we want to complete an application. On the Form 990, we find the amount that was distributed. We find names of directors, important to determine if we know any of these individuals. In Part 15, we find information about where to mail the application. Sometimes there is information about whether applications are received year-long or whether there is a specific deadline that needs to be met, and a phone number of the designated individual to call for more information. The last part of Form 990 provides information about who received grants and the amount that was paid out. It is prudent to look at this information and to determine what is the appropriate amount to request. We are almost ready to take a break. Only one more website to check out, and that would be the grantor's website. So we go out to the internet and search on the grantor website, in our case, Terry Lee Wells Foundation. When we get there, we see the guidelines, the process, and the application form. This information should be printed out and studied. We are looking for any reason why we would not want to fill out the application. If the member is not the primary person who will be writing the grant, she should share this information with the actual member who will write the grant. Here we can see the specific instructions on the left side of the screen and the application form on the right side of the screen. Again, it is very important to read these over at least 3 times before filling them out. This is a paper submission. More about online submissions coming up in a few more slides. The first few times one does a search for funding sources, it seems like a lot of work. This is a lot more fun if you are working with someone to learn how to do the process, and then soon you both will be doing independent searches. This is really not that hard when you realize that you could be finding an application that could land anywhere from $1,000 to $50,000 for your organization and the programs it is trying to fund. Now we are off to our next lesson or module, writing. Remember, we pointed out that patience and persistence would pay off, and it has. You now have an application in front of you. You have read the instructions and the application at least 3 times. When you are working as a team, you may find that the person that found the grantor is not the member that will now fill out the application. The first thing one needs to do is determine if they are completing a paper submission or an online submission. One must understand any restrictions that need consideration, such as the number of pages that can be included in the application, or how many words or characters that can be included in the online dialog boxes. Some members have filled out paper applications but are not comfortable completing online applications. It is very important that the member follows precisely any guidelines or requests for information that the grantor makes. It is not the time to use your creative writing skills. Write concisely, check grammar and spelling, and always, always, always have someone else read the application prior to submission. That will need to be put together by the grant writer. Remember, you can do this as a team, especially if you are new to Assistance League. Find a more seasoned member and get the information that you need to write the chapter history, the program narrative, and the program budget. Need help on budgeting? We suggest you spend some time with the treasurer. Oftentimes, we use the chapter's budget and highlight the area in the budget that demonstrates the revenue and expenses for a program. We don't have time today to demonstrate how to go about writing a solid chapter history or program narrative or how to construct a more specific budget. More about that in a few minutes when we talk about our blog. Okay, we have found a grantor, we've figured out the application procedures, we determined which program we are writing for, and had someone else review our entire package. We are now ready to submit our proposal to the grantor. Our next lesson or module is submission. We want to take a few minutes before we seal the envelope or hit the button to submit the application. Read the guidelines one more time. Make sure you know where to mail the paper proposal. Put the proposal in a large envelope. Do not fold it. Be sure to mail with a return receipt or, if possible, hand carry the proposal to the grantor's office. Be very careful to review an online grant submission prior to hitting the send or submit button. Be sure that you place a full copy of the grant to the permanent hard file in the chapter's house. We do not save the Form 990 budget and audited financial attachments to the hard file since it would make the file too fat. Save a copy of the grant to a folder in Dropbox so the rest of the team has access to it. You will have to print the online application and then save the file to Dropbox. You will thank yourself for taking this step when you find your next grant opportunity. In the decision module or lesson, we focus on what to do when the decision comes. Waiting to get the decision on your grant proposal can seem like an eternity. If you are successful, send a thank you letter as soon as possible after notification. Be sure to send any other paperwork required by the grantor. If you're unsuccessful, try to determine what you could do to improve your chances the next time you apply to this grantor. It is important to communicate the decision to the President, Treasurer, and the Vice President of Resource Development. Now that you have one grant under the belt, it's time to talk about writing some more. And that takes us back to team development. We all want to sing to the grantor's success story, and to do that, we have to have a strong committee or team. Team development needs a strong chairman who is passionate about raising money for the chapter. The individual needs to know how to set an agenda, run a meeting, and see that minutes are taken. The chairman should be able to work with a variety of personalities. Using a subcommittee for the sole purpose of identifying grantors is very useful in bringing opportunities to the committee of potential new grantors. Talking about new grantors, we also want to talk about new members. As each class of new orientees comes in, be sure to determine if there are any individuals who will be right for the grants committee. Look at their skills and determine who can help and how they can help the committee process. It is very important for the chairman to conduct an annual evaluation and determine the committee's strengths and weaknesses. Hooray! We are at the summary, but we hope that you don't leave early because we have a surprise for you. Each of the grant lessons that we have discussed, preparation, funding, writing, submission, decision, and team development, all could use more time. Today we focused mostly on the funding or finding a grantor lesson and dipped into the writing lesson for a few minutes. Each chapter has 2 opportunities to improve their grant writing abilities after they leave the conference. But let's step back for a minute to January of 2012 when the Resource Development Committee conducted a survey of Assistance League chapter presidents. The survey was completed by 92 respondents. 85% reported grant income on their financial statements during fiscal year ending 2010-2011. So this is an important avenue of obtaining resources for a chapter. It is interesting that only 8% reported using GrantStation to identify funders, and 11% used Foundation Center to identify funders. 67% desired to pay $40 to purchase access to a funder database, and as you know, we have been able to do this through the national office at $40 per chapter per year. Finally, 77% wanted additional training on grant writing. We hope that this is just the beginning of our journey on learning about grant writing. We are coming to the close of our presentation, and in a few minutes we will be able to take questions. But don't go away, because we want to remind you that you can purchase for $40 GrantStation if you have not already done so to find grantors. Now we have one more opportunity for you. And encourage chapters to use a team approach within their grant committee. To this end, we have decided to host a blog called Grant Lessons. Before we go, we want to tell you about our blog. Grant Lessons has more detail on the 6 modules that we have been discussing. There are checklists that you can use to determine the health of your grant process within your chapter. There are examples, resources, and videos. So come and join us as we work together to find funders through the grant process to help others in our communities across the United States. Join the blog where you can see what Sandy and Pat are up to in their grant writing process. See the handout for the address of the blog, which is simply www.grantlessons.wordpress.com. We want to take this opportunity to thank 2 committees, the National Resource Development Committee chaired by Anita Friesen and the Assistance League of Reno-Sparks Grants Committee chaired by Peggy Miller. Without these committees and the work of its members, what you have seen today would not have been possible. So as we say goodbye, be sure to join our blog where we will continue this discussion. Come join in on the fun. We will see you soon on the blog.